What's going on, everybody? This is the Black Trekker. Thank you for sitting there with me for a few ticks. I appreciate you stopping through in your morning, afternoon, or evening. I'm going to talk about Star Trek Picard, Season 3, Episode 5, Imposters. I'm going to tell you what I liked, what I disliked, and what was actually quite surprising. So, this episode takes place, the Titans safely back in Federation territory. The Shriek, the ship that was assailing them, is nowhere to be found. Now, Captain Riker is maybe attesting that they're back in Starfleet. The Shriek would be foolish to come into Starfleet territory because of the fact that the Federation border is protected by very powerful and advanced sensor nets and also very powerful and advanced, technically superior warships. So the Shriek don't want no problems with Starfleet, not on a direct confrontation. So with that being said, they're like sitting on their laurels and they're trying to assess what actually transpired. So a couple of minutes later, they're in the briefing room. It's Captain Riker, it's Captain Shaw, it's Admiral Picard, and it's also Commander 7. And Commander 7 is basically saying, you know, how did this happen? And then it was explained by Captain Riker that, you know, we developed technology to be able to determine what a changeling was trying to do. Like, because after the Dominion Wars, Starfleet had technology, they had plenty of samples, thanks to Odo, to be able to determine how they could detect changelings, and they had that technology for a period of decades. But Starfleet, like any major governmental organization, they rest on their laurels and they think that their technology is never going to be breached. And apparently the changelings figured out how to circumvent their technology and make it basically obsolete and useless. But they didn't do it like directly by saying, hey, we got your technology, we know how it works. But that's what occurred, because now the changelings were able to bypass the actual tests that determine from a physiological standpoint if you're actually a sentient human or a sentient Klingon to an actual changeling. And they got so good at it that they were able to figure out how to fake the blood test. Because back in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, one of the clear ways to be able to determine if it was a changeling was to take a knife, cut your hand, and the blood drips. But the changelings were able to figure that out too. Innovation by the Dominion. Check it out. Now, again, I don't know if this is the Dominion. It could be what a lot of YouTubers are saying. It could be an off branch of the actual Dominion. Some disgruntled changelings that got upset and they wanted to get back at the Federation because apparently there are other changelings. Now, I know on Star Trek Online, there was a episode where there were different changelings in the Alpha Quadrant, in a part of the Alpha Quadrant that was really explored. But I'm thinking, how is that possible? Because Starfleet is all over the Alpha Quadrant, and not only the Romulans and then also the Klingons in the Beta Quadrant. So I don't understand how that would have been the case. But anyway, nonetheless, that's what transpired in that particular online game. Now, that is not necessarily canon, but I played it and I was like, okay, this is interesting. I can see how there could be other changelings. I mean, the changelings have been running the Dominion for 10,000 years. I'm pretty sure there's some disgruntled changelings that don't agree with the Great Link and everything they stand for. Just like it's some disgruntled humans and Vulcans and Klingons. So with that being said, it's got to be some volition to what that was occurring. Anyway, so they're talking about it, they're discussing it. Captain Riker feels this is an appropriate time to relinquish command and give it back to Captain Shaw. He's back on his feet. He's feeling fine. So he says, Captain Shaw, I have something to give back to you. He stands up. He says, computer, this is Captain Riker. I wish to relinquish my command authorization. I don't remember what the authorization code was, but it was something like alphabet or something. And then it went back to Captain Shaw. And Captain Shaw said, I relieve you, sir. And then Captain Riker said, I stand relieved. This is traditional Navy jargon when a captain takes over another captain or relinquish their command and gives it back to the previous captain. This is typical Navy banter, and this is commonplace. Basically, a change of command ceremony. That's exactly what it was. Now, Captain Shaw, he's an asshole. I keep saying this. He's a good asshole, but he's an asshole. He's by the book, goody two-shoot. That's how he gets down. But Captain Shaw was like, okay, well, we got that out of the way. Thank you very much for giving me command back. I just want to let you guys know we survived this ordeal. But guess what? I got it. It's about to drop. Boop. It drops. And he's like, listen, I notified, because Admiral Picard was like, listen, we got to go back and face the Muse against Starfleet. And then Captain Shaw was like, no, you don't. I already called Starfleet. They on their way. So Captain Shaw is a Blue Falcon, and he went and gone ahead and tell Starfleet Command of what transpired, and now Starfleet is coming. So I have to be honest about this. Before I seen actually what transpired, I was thinking, man, I hope it's going to be like some cool new ship that's like state-of-the-art, cutting edge. And I'm looking at it on my television screen, and I got to be honest, this ship ain't that impressive. It's kind of like something I've seen before. I was kind of hoping it was going to be like a Sovereign or something, but I mean, that's like 30 years ago. So I went, but the cell type of the ship is equivalent to the Titan. It's like just, and it don't even look bigger than the Titan. It just looks like an equivalent ship to the Titan. Psh, disappointing in that. They could have did better. They could have made it something way more up, like an up-to-date Galaxy class. I mean, this is Starfleet. Let's get serious. But anyway, I digress. Getting back to the topic. So he's like, listen, I already notified Starfleet. Listen, so, you know, I'm going to give y'all the courtesy to get y'all bullshit story together. And then he walks out the room. And so Admiral Picard is like, listen, I'm going to take the brunt of it. You know what I'm saying? Because he's doing that because of the fact that he's a retired admiral. And really, what can Starfleet do to him? I mean, come on, seriously. What, I mean, reprimand? No, can't reprimand him. He's a prestigious admiral. Come on, get serious. And then he goes out there and he's talking to Beverly like, listen, you know, you guys, I'm going to take the brunt of it. Don't worry about it. Y'all are not going to get punished. Not really. And so then what happens is we cut back to the part of the actual episode that I really didn't care about is Ralphie and Worf. Now, I do like Worf. Don't get it twisted. Worf is my man. I like Worf. But Ralphie, I don't even care about her story. Her story's boring. And they're basically training on the La Sirena. And Ralphie thinks she can get the upper hand on Worf. I mean, let's get serious. It's Worf. He'd have survived the Dominion War. He'd have survived the battles with the Borg. He didn't survive the freaking power exchange between Gowron and the Duras family, and also he killed the Duras brother. So with that being said, Worf is a legend in combat, martial arts, Klingon warfare, Federation warfare, all of that. You're not about to get over on Worf for no battle. Anyway, Worf makes short work of her. She don't know how to fight compared to him, and he's teaching her about patience and mixed direction, and also understanding that your enemy will reveal their flaws. And she thinks she got Worf pegged. She don't. So anyway, after that goes by, they start talking, and he's like, well, listen, I need to get in contact with my handler. And they're trying to get permission to go to the Daystrom Institute. Now, the Daystrom Institute, rather the Daystrom Station, is in orbit of Jupiter. It's not even on Earth. It's a very secure space station. Highly secure, got state-of-the-art technology. He can't get on the space station. He can't get permission because the changelings stole something. Now, I'm going to say this. I don't think the changelings are the real culprits behind this. I think they're like kind of like a symptom to the actual problem. Because Jack Crusher, he having all these visions, and it looks like something like a Borg infestation, but it's red. And you know how the Borg infestation, they get on your skin and then it starts to spread throughout your body. Well, it's like some kind of red crap. I don't know what that's supposed to represent. But I think it's something bigger than the changelings, because this right here, whatever it is, probably can take over the Great Link and the Dominion in general. So with that being said, yeah, I don't think it's the changelings. I think the changelings are maybe like, probably like hired help because they have a familiarity with the Federation. But again, I'm just speculating. Anyway, so after a while, they're talking and everything like that. And then Starfleet shows up. Starfleet shows up in their Tinker Toy starship that I'm not even impressed by. And then they ask for permission to come aboard. And guess who it is? It's Ro Laren from the TNG seasons. Now, Ro Laren was a disgraced Starfleet officer who committed a major breach in her ethics by joining the Maquis. Now, full transparency, I ain't got no beef with the Maquis. Personally, I think that the Federation is a large organization, like any large organization, and they got problems. They got a lot of probably bureaucracy. They got a lot of hubris about their standings, and they also got a lot of corruption. They got a lot of corruption. And because they got a lot of corruption, they have real issues and problems being able to really deal with the dynamics of being of integrity. So Rose Laren had a problem with Starfleet, and I got it, and I dig it, and I understand. But this is most curling because I thought she got kicked out. I thought she got kicked out of Starfleet again, but apparently she got kicked out, she served her time, and then she was able to come back and work for Section 31. Now, this is most interesting, most peculiar, that she got heat for Picard. And interesting enough, she's a commander, but her rank is not like the typical pips that are going like this. They're going down. I don't understand what that is about. Maybe it's a new uniform design for people that are in Starfleet intelligence. But with that being said, I want to say this to you about her character and how she performed. Excellent. Because she had real heat for Picard. She did not like him. And Picard was bewildered because he was talking to Riker like, wait a second, how does she get it back in Starfleet? You know, she's disgraced. But apparently she is. And so, going to the medical bay, Dr. Crusher is trying to understand how the Changelings was able to infiltrate the ship. So with the doctor from the Titan, they're working together to be able to figure out what's going on with this, because this is unbelievable. So anyway, she is working with Picard to figure out that, and I gotta say, the subterfuge is outstanding. Subterfuge is outstanding for the simple fact that Picard and also Beverly are working in construct with each other to be able to figure out what's going on. So Picard is being interrogated by Ro, and Dr. Beverly Crusher hits him up and says, hey, you know, your medical results came in. This is an urgent matter. And Picard's like, excuse me, because even in the 25th century, you're not going to violate HEPA. You just ain't going to do it. So with that being said, Ro is like waiting like 15 feet behind him. He goes over there and he looks, and it basically says, Changelings can bypass the technology to detect them. Trust no one. So Picard like, oh shit. He's like, okay, well, let me go back and let's do this another way. And he's like, well, why are you after so curious after my son? Because remember, Jack Crusher in the first episode basically stated that don't trust nobody. Starfleet is compromised, and now it's been verified. Starfleet is compromised. The Changelings are is all over the place because they can infiltrate damn near anybody. I don't really believe there was a species that the Changelings really couldn't infiltrate or really mimic. At least that wasn't shown in Deep Space Nine, and it wasn't shown in any other series. So I think that they can pretty much mimic everybody, and that right there is terrifying. They're great for spies, terrifying for anybody else. So yeah. So anyway, that continues on, and so she takes him to the holodeck, and she locks the holodeck door, plays music. She tells him to play music. He turns on music. He takes off the safeties in the holodeck. Now, the interesting thing about the holodeck, although it's generally safe in a holodeck, and really the weapons, like say you're doing melee or you're doing martial arts and you have a holodeck character and they're punching you, yeah, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to be full forced. But when you take off the safeties, yeah, it could be full force and it can actually hurt. So he took off the safeties and he pulled out a gun. Well, not a gun, a phaser from Guinan's personal stash. I don't know. Everybody got phasers in Guinan's personal stash, whatever. It's a holodeck. Crazy. Pulls it out. They have a back and forth banter. And then he hit her with some questions. And then he hit her with the Bajoran language. And he's like, listen, I've been waiting 30 years to have this conversation with you. Apparently, Rose Laren and Picard had a more intimate relationship, or maybe it was kind of like a father-daughter, mentor type of dynamic. It didn't really go into actually deep, expressive reasoning behind what transpired. But anyway, they had an emotional moment. And then what occurred was he was like, yo, listen, you know, you're not wearing your little nose earpiece ring thing. I don't know what it's called, but that's a symbol of their culture. They take it very, very seriously. And she wasn't wearing it. But anyway, she finally breaks down and she's like, listen, Starfleet's been compromised. You know, and she was like, do you trust me? And Picard is like begrudgingly like, yeah, because she was able to recount what transpired 20 years ago, 25 years ago. So with that being said, she was able to recount what occurred, and she knows that this is Picard, and Picard knows this is her. And she's like, yeah, Starfleet's been compromised. I've been researching this for months. I got assets on the ground that are, because she's the handler of Worf. And she's basically saying like, yeah, it's at the highest levels. And this ain't the first incident of changelings on starships. There's 12 other incidents that have been brushed under the rug. And then also she was like, well, what do you know about Frontier Day? Apparently Frontier Day is like the holiday of the Starfleet and the Federation for like exploration or whatever. I don't know. I ain't never heard of it before. See, this is the stuff that the Abrams and the Metalis writers are adding in Starfleet history and Star Trek history that ain't canon. But anyway, it's canon now because it's on television. But anyway, I'm saying this to you say that she was like, what do you know about Frontier Day? And he was like, that I'm going to be doing a speech. And even though all of this has transpired, Frontier Day is like a week away. And so she was like, listen, most of our fleet is going to be at Frontier Day. And the Frontier Day, I guess, is like around the Earth or around the core members of the Federation, which is stupid. Because if you got the majority of the fleet not guarding the borders and the perimeters of Starfleet, of the Federation, then that's open for an invasion fleet that can come and kick your butt. That's dumb. So, but again, that's orchestrated by, I guess, the changelings. So she's like, listen, don't trust anybody. So what happens is that they leave, and then what transpires is that she has 2 security officers with her. Now, I believe she knows that they changelings. And with that being said, and she's like, listen, follow my orders. We're leaving. It was like, well, what about Jack Crusher? And she was just like, let's go. So anyway, Picard goes back to the bridge. And the only reason I'm not talking about what's going on with Worf and Ralphie is because it's quite irrelevant. They only trying to get to the Daystrom Institute. The guy who's in charge is some Vulcan cat. He's like some criminal mastermind down there, just quoting this Vulcan Shakespeare stuff. And then on top of that, to make a long story short, Ralphie and Worf get the best of them, and he's going to provide information for them to be able to get in the Daystrom Institute, because the Daystrom Institute uses some very advanced AI technology to be able to protect it from being infiltrated. Okay, big deal, whoop-de-whoop. It ain't that advanced because the Changelings was able to break it. Anyway, so back to the stuff that actually matters. So now Picard is going back to the bridge and saying, hey, listen, the Changelings have infiltrated Starfleet. And Shaw like, what you talking about? The Changelings infiltrated Starfleet? And he was like, it's worse than what we thought. Like, it ain't bad. It's really bad because they infiltrated all of Starfleet. All of Starfleet at the highest echelons. Probably to the president of Starfleet, which is crazy. Anyway, he don't do nothing anyway. Like any real president, they don't do nothing anyway. Anyway, so it's bad. So what happens is that Commander Rowe is back in the shuttle. And they're heading over to, I forget the other ship's name, but the other ship that's probably controlled with nothing but changelings. Anyway, going back to the ship, the 2 changelings put some kind of bomb in the middle of the floor, and then they transport out. So she gets she sends a live message to them and says, hey. Now, meanwhile, Captain Shaw, the idiot that he is saying, security, security. And security is about to arrest and rope up Captain Riker, and then also Admiral Picard. But they get the incoming transmission that basically says, hey, listen, Starfleet has been compromised, and also you guys need to get out of here ASAP. Now, before Commander Rowe left, she had gave Picard her earring. And that earring was, I guess, sentimental or something to that effect. But nonetheless, she gave it to him. Now, I already knew what that was. That was some kind of like chip or something inside of it that had some kind of like logs or some kind of proof of her investigation or something. Because I knew she was about to get killed because they beamed out of there. And then they activated some transporter inhibitors so the Titan couldn't beam her out. That's dirty. She proved the loyalty to Picard. Anyway, Picard and Rowe had an emotional exchange where, he was like, I see you and I'm so sorry it took me all this time. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, yes. And then they exchanged that moment. Rowe Laren, she was a real one all day. And so what she did is that she knew she was going to die. She couldn't get closer back to the Titan. So what happens is she rammed her ship into the nacelle of the ship that was controlled by the changelings. It temporarily, messed up the nacelles. Them changelings, they pretty smart. They'll be able to fix that in a couple of hours, a couple of minutes. Anyway, the shields for that ship are started to activate. Now, apparently that ship got some high-powered weapon systems, even though it looks like it's equivalent in the same size of the Titan. But whatever. I don't like the ship. I think the design is tacky and ugly. But whatever. That's just my opinion. Anyway, so with that being said, the Titan has a situation. Picard's like, look, we need to run. Riker's like, look, we need to run. Shaw's like, because, you know, Shaw's not a really smart captain. He's kind of slow. Like, we're going to be running from everybody. Duh! And I'm looking like, yo, run. I'm like, run, run, run. Before the other Starfleet ship that's controlled by the changelings get back up, it's kind of like on the movie The Undiscovered Company. Undiscovered Country, Star Trek 6, when the torpedoes are fired by the cloaked bird of prey. And Gorkin's ship is disoriented. And then it starts to not get disoriented, and it starts to turn. It gets its bearings and starts to turn around, and it's about to fire because the weapons are loaded. Same thing with this ship. Shaw, that's why, you know, sometimes relinquishing command back to Shaw wasn't a good idea. Shaw finally is like, okay, well, let's get out of here. And then they do an about face. I don't understand why they did the about face instead of just like going straight. I mean, they're not like directly in, like, the ships are not like this. The other ship is kind of like this, and then like this, because it's above it. So I would have just said, boom. But they were ordering the Titan to stand down. We're not going to stand down, dude. Y'all changelings. No way. And so Jack Crusher, he's having like these visions of like some kind of like web of red stuff and a red door and some voice talking about, come to me, come to me. I think Jack Crusher is probably like some kind of experiment. That ain't the real Jack Crusher. That's like, he has an affinity for Beverly, but that ain't her real son. He like a clone or something like that, but that's not her real son. Yeah, and he got the ability to detect because it was 4 additional changelings. It was 2 changelings that he was walking in the corridor. It was 2 changelings that beamed over, and it was 2 other changelings that were already on the ship. He dispatched them quickly. I mean, he treated them like freaking John Wick be treating regular people in their movies. I mean, he killed them quick. Skill set. Kind of like Rafa Khan. He killed them quick. And they was discovering that it was actually 5 changelings on one ship. And even Captain Shaw was kind of like, wow. So they finally warped out of that, and now they're on the run. Because Starfleet is coming for them. Everybody. That's why Beverly Crusher said, don't trust anybody. Now, I'll say this. I think it's a larger entity or a larger force. I don't think it's the Q, or it may be someone equivalent, maybe a little less in power, but this seems kind of petty for a force that's as powerful as the Q to even be remotely interested in undermining Starfleet. I don't think it's them. I think it might be a power that's maybe a few steps below them. Well, not even a few steps, maybe like a few 100 million years below them. But still more technologically advanced than Starfleet by a couple centuries, if not a few thousand years. I don't think the changelings are really like the main enemy behind this. I think the changelings are probably just like henchmen, and then they subsequently have other henchmen working for them, and they're trying to appease their overlords. But this is all speculation. This is only episode 5. There's 5 more episodes. Anyway, Picard and Riker are in the ready room, or not the ready room, they're in the briefing room. And Picard, as old as he is and as wise as he is and as much as he knows about, different detective movies and whatnot, and different like adventures, he didn't know about the actual earrings. He's like, all she did is left me these earrings. And Riker knew what it was, because Riker old school. And he was like, yeah, this is old school spycraft. And I know what this is. He put it on there, and then it opened up a whole cache of information. He was like, this is what she was working on. And it was a holographic inventory of all the stuff that she was working on all over the years. And so then they get an incoming message. And guess who it is? It's Worf. And Admiral Picard is like, Mr. Worf, Come on, man. You're going to address him as Worf. You're an admiral, you retired, you know. Address him as Worf. Y'all friends now. And Riker addressed him as Worf. Worf! And he was excited. And they are going to get down to what's really going on. And then we pan back to the hospital area of the ship, the sick bay. And it's Jack is basically weeping and acting all soft. He knows what's going on with himself, but he don't want to. His mother's like, what's going on? She makes a statement about when he was younger, and he's like, I think something might be really wrong with me. So I think in the next episode, Beverly gonna do some like really in-depth, intensive medical scans on her son to figure out what's going on. Again, I don't think that's the real Jack Crusher. I think Jack Crusher might be being cloned or held hostage, or if it is the real Jack Crusher, he's being controlled and he's being manipulated in some way, some shape or form. Now, what did I like about the episode is I like the fact that Ro Laren was present. That was very unexpected. I did not think that I was going to see her ever again. I also like the fact that Worf is, he's just a badass, I don't really like Ralphie, but Worf's a badass. I like also the fact that Shaw, he continuously is a jerk and an asshole. Continuously. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to the next episode. This episode was pretty good. It was probably like a B. Anyway, with that being said, I'm signing off. Live long and prosper. Check me out. Like, share, and subscribe. The Black Trekker.